What's better, a house that's fully paid off or a $1 million portfolio? In other words, do you crush the mortgage fast or do you invest the money and take the full 30 years to pay it off? On one extreme, you've got Dave Ramsey. On the other, Robert Kiyosaki. But most of us, we're not on the edges. We land somewhere in the middle. You might lean more towards Dave, or maybe you'll lean more towards Robert, but really, most of us are not at the extremes. Let's start with the Dave Ramsey's way. His advice is to invest 15% of your income, set aside money for your kids' college, and then funnel every remaining dollar into your mortgage. In other words, attack the mortgage with everything you've got after investing 15%. Now here's where I hesitate. Today, most mortgages sit at 2 to 5%. Some homeowners even logged in rates as low as 2%. Meanwhile, the stock market has returned 10% annually on average. So doesn't it make more sense to direct the extra cash towards the market rather than racing to eliminate such cheap debt? The danger in paying off mortgage too aggressively is that you could shortchange your retirement savings. Yes, Dave Ramsey's plan does keep you investing 15%, which is a solid foundation. But is it truly enough? I'm not so sure. Over decades, the difference is huge. Money tied up in a house is not compounding at higher rates. Purely on math, the numbers don't side with Dave Ramsey. And I'll show you a detailed comparison with the numbers in just a bit. But to be fair, Dave Ramsey does make one very strong case. A paid-off mortgage is a guaranteed return. There's no risk. There's no volatility. The stock market, on the other hand, moves like a roller coaster. Yes, history shows strong returns, but the future makes no promise. So it's a guaranteed return versus a potential return. Now here's where it gets interesting. What if your mortgage is in the 5 to 8% range? Many new loans today are in that range. At that point, Dave Ramsey's advice is start to make a lot more sense. Invest 15% of your income like Dave says, and then start paying down your mortgage. The closer you are to 7%, the more it makes sense to kill that debt. Some people argue that you should never pay off a loan that's under 10% because the stock market has historically returned 10% on average. And yes, that is true, but once again, there's nothing guaranteed with the market. It can fall down. It can stay down for many years, but with a mortgage, your return is locked in. It's a sure thing. Now let's look at the other extreme, Robert Kiyosaki. He says take on as much debt as you can. He says debt is not taxed, and he says don't bother paying off your mortgage. Just keep borrowing and keep investing. And to be fair, I do carry a decent amount of real estate debt myself. But here's what often gets left out. Debt always adds more risk. If you owe money, you carry more risk. A paid-off house eliminates that risk completely. There's no lender, there's no payment hanging over your head. Now, you can be smart with debt and take on just enough so you don't collapse if things go south. That's where I personally lean just a bit towards Robert Kiyosaki. I use debt to buy rental properties, but I do it very carefully, not how he tells you to do it. I always put down 20%, and I do have an emergency fund for every rental. That's my version of using debt. So when it comes to the big question, a paid-off home or $1 million portfolio, the Robert Kiyosaki's approach is all about chasing growth with leverage, but the cost is risk. And that's something you can't ignore. He does not talk about risk at all, but please don't ignore the risk. Let's look at an example. Say you have a $300,000 mortgage at 3% interest. That's about $1,200 a month. After paying off your bills and the mortgage, you've got, let's say, $1,000 left over in cash flow every month. If you follow Dave Ramsey's plan, you invest, let's say, $300, and the other $700 goes towards your mortgage payment. This helps you pay off the house in about 16 years. It also saves you $77,000 in interest. After 16 years, your investments are worth around $130,000. But from year 16 to year 30, you now put the full $1,000 into investing because that was your cash flow. By the end of 30 years, your house is paid off and your investment account is worth about $827,000. Now, what if instead of following this way, you invested the full $1,000 of monthly cash flow into the stock market instead of paying the mortgage off aggressively? You pay only the regular mortgage payments for 30 years and you invest the full $1,000 every month. At the end of 30 years, your house is paid off, but this time your portfolio is worth about $2 million. So here's the difference. With the Ramsey approach, you end up with the house and about $827,000. But with the investing way, you end up with the house and about $2 million. Why? Because the stock market grows faster than your 3% loan costs you. And I know all this sounds great, but age plays a big role in this decision. If you're young, maybe you have 30 or 40 years of work and investing ahead of you. That gives you the time to ride out the ups and downs of the market. But if you're close to retirement, it is very different. You don't have decades to recover from a bad stretch. At that stage, carrying a mortgage can feel a lot heavier. You don't want to step into retirement and still be making mortgage payments, because once the paycheck stops, every dollar that you owe comes from your savings, your portfolio, or Social Security. A paid off home cuts your biggest expense. Think about it. If your mortgage is $1,500 a month and you wipe it out, that's $18,000 a year gone from your budget. Now your portfolio does not have to work as hard. Even a smaller portfolio, say $600,000 instead of $1 million portfolio, can stretch much further if housing is paid for, and in Social Security or pension, and you are in a decent place. Another angle worth considering is inflation. A fixed rate mortgage can actually work in your favor over time because inflation erodes the real value of your payments. Let's say your mortgage payment is $1,200 a month today. That feels like a big expense right now, but fast forward 20 or 30 years, if inflation averages even 3% per year, that same $1,200 will feel a lot lighter. In real terms, you're paying back your mortgage with cheaper dollars. That's the beauty of a fixed rate loan. Your payment stays the same, while your income and the cost of everything around you typically rises with inflation. So carrying a low interest mortgage is not necessarily the worst thing in the world. It is a great hedge against inflation. Now pair that with investing. Stocks not only keep up with inflation, but historically they have outpaced it. This means your portfolio has the potential to grow faster than both inflation and your fixed rate payment. This combination, which is the fixed, cheap debt and growing investment portfolio, can tilt the math heavily towards investing over paying off the house too early. But let's put the numbers aside for a minute. Forget Dave Ramsey, forget Robert Kiyosaki. Let's look beyond the math to the kind of lifestyle that you get to live. A paid off home can change the way people see work and risk. No mortgage means it's easier to leave a job that's stressful, start a business, or take on more risk without the fear of losing your house. That peace of mind that the bank can't take your home does not show up on a chart or an Excel sheet, but it matters in real life. A big portfolio, on the other hand, gives you a different kind of freedom, so we can't discount that either. So this is not just a math problem, it's also a lifestyle question. What kind of freedom do you value more? The security of the roof that's 100% yours, or the flexibility of wealth that you can tap in at any time? So let's circle back to the big question. Would you rather have a paid off home or a $1 million portfolio? In my opinion, if your mortgage rate is in the 2 to 5% range and you're in your 30s, even in the 40s, invest the extra cash. The market has the stronger return over time. But if your rate is above 5%, lean towards the Dave Ramsey's way. Keep investing, but also pay down the mortgage faster. Just be careful. Don't let 80 to 90% of your wealth be tied up in the house. That's concentration risk. It means your entire financial future is riding on just one asset. And worse, it's an asset that is not liquid and you can't easily use it when you need the cash.